There was a man who smoked for 20 years. He tried everything to quit: nicotine patches, therapy, medication, even hypnosis. He spent thousands of dollars and years of his life fighting this habit. Then he traveled to Japan for work and met an old monk who taught him something that changed everything. Within 3 months, he quit smoking completely, and not through force or willpower. The monk showed him a completely different way, a way that felt almost too easy to be true. What if everything you know about breaking bad habits is backwards? What if the very act of fighting against your habits is what gives them power? What if there was a way to let habits fade away naturally, without the exhausting battle, without needing constant willpower, and without the endless cycle of trying and failing? The Japanese have understood something about human nature that we in the West are only beginning to discover. They don't see habits as enemies to defeat. They don't believe in using force against yourself. Instead, they have developed a gentle system that works with your mind, not against it. And the results speak for themselves. The problem with force. We see this pattern everywhere in Western approaches to change. We join gyms in January with intense workout plans, only to give up by February. We delete social media apps in a big show of a digital detox, only to reinstall them days later. We make grand promises and set impossible standards, then feel shame when we, not surprisingly, fall short. The Japanese approach starts from a completely different idea. Instead of viewing habits as enemies to defeat, they see them as patterns that once had a purpose. Every habit, even the destructive ones, began as a solution to some problem. The smoker who reaches for a cigarette during stress once found comfort there. The overeater who binges at night once found comfort in food. Understanding this changes everything. There was once a Japanese monk who struggled with anger. Every day, small irritations would build until he exploded at his students. He tried everything to control his temper. He meditated for hours, repeated mantras, even fasted for days. Nothing worked. The harder he fought his anger, the stronger it seemed to become. Then, an older monk told him something that changed his life. "Stop trying to get rid of your anger," he said. "Instead, become curious about it. Watch it like you would watch a cloud passing through the sky. Notice when it arrives, how it feels in your body, what thoughts come with it. But do not judge it or fight it. Simply observe." The young monk doubted this would work, but tried this approach. When anger arose, instead of pushing it down, he would quietly note to himself, "Anger is here." He would feel where it lived in his body, usually as heat in his chest and tension in his jaw. He would notice the thoughts that fueled it, often stories about how things should be different. Within weeks, something surprising happened. The anger began to lose its power. By observing it without judgment, he had created space between himself and the emotion. He could feel anger without being controlled by it. Eventually, the anger visited less often, and when it did come, it passed through quickly like a summer storm. Understanding impermanence, this principle forms the foundation of the Japanese approach to breaking habits. They understand that nothing lasts forever, including cravings and urges. When you really understand this, it changes everything. That desperate need for a cigarette will pass. That overwhelming urge to check your phone will fade. That craving for alcohol will come and go like a wave. Consider how most people handle cravings. When someone trying to quit sugar feels the urge for dessert, they either give in right away or try to distract themselves. Both approaches treat the craving as an emergency that must be resolved. The Japanese method suggests a third way. Acknowledge the craving, feel it fully, but do not act on it. Sit with the discomfort like you would sit with a friend who's upset. Be present with it, but do not try to fix it. A businessman in Tokyo used this method to quit his 20-year smoking habit. Instead of throwing away his cigarettes, he kept them on his desk. When the urge to smoke arose, he would pick up a cigarette, hold it, smell it, and fully experience the craving. Then he would set a timer for 10 minutes and tell himself he could smoke when it rang. During those 10 minutes, he did not distract himself or fight the urge. He simply sat with it, observing how it moved through his body like a wave. He noticed it would get strongest around 3 minutes, then gradually fade away. By the time 10 minutes passed, the intensity had usually decreased enough that he could choose not to smoke. This was not about willpower. It was about understanding the nature of cravings. They feel permanent in the moment, but they are actually quite brief. Most cravings last between 3 and 5 minutes at their strongest. If you can surf that wave without being pulled under, you discover something powerful. You are not your cravings. You are the awareness that observes them. The art of Kaizen. The Japanese have another concept called Kaizen, which means continuous small improvement. Western culture loves dramatic transformations. We want to go from couch potato to marathon runner overnight. We want to quit all our bad habits at once and become completely different people by next Monday. This all or nothing thinking sets us up for failure. Kaizen takes the opposite approach. Instead of trying to change everything at once, you change 1% at a time. If you want to break a habit of watching 4 hours of television each night, you do not suddenly go cold turkey. You reduce it by 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes less today than yesterday. This seems almost insultingly small to the Western mind. We want big changes and we want them now. But this misunderstands how the brain actually changes. The brain pathways that support habits were built over years or decades. They cannot be demolished overnight. They must be gradually rewired, and this happens through small, consistent actions. A woman in Kyoto used Kaizen to break her shopping addiction. She did not cut up her credit cards or promise to stop shopping forever. She started by waiting 1 day before making any online purchase. If she still wanted the item after 24 hours, she could buy it. This tiny change began to break the habit of needing it right away. After a month, she extended the waiting period to 2 days, then 3. Within 6 months, she was waiting a full week before any purchase, and by then, she found she rarely still wanted the items. This gradual approach works because it does not trigger the brain's alarm system. When you make dramatic changes, your nervous system sees this as danger and activates resistance. You experience this as overwhelming cravings, anxiety, and an almost impossible urge to return to the familiar pattern. But tiny changes slip under the radar. The brain does not register them as threats, so there is no massive resistance. The power of replacement. There is also the concept of Ikigai, your reason for being. Many habits stick around because they fill an empty space in our lives. We smoke because we are stressed. We overeat because we are lonely. We scroll social media because we are bored. Unless we address the real, underlying need, breaking the habit leaves an empty space that demands to be filled. The Japanese approach says to find what truly gives your life meaning and gradually replace the destructive habit with something that matches your Ikigai. This isn't just about swapping one thing for another. It is about discovering what you are really seeking through the habit and finding a genuine way to meet that need. A programmer who drank heavily every evening discovered through reflection that he was not addicted to alcohol itself. He was addicted to the transition it provided from work stress to personal time. Alcohol was his ritual for shifting gears. Once he understood this, he developed a new transition ritual. He would change into comfortable clothes, make tea, and spend 10 minutes sketching something he had loved as a child but hadn't used in years. This was not just replacing one habit with another. It was understanding the deeper need and meeting it in a way that aligned with his true values. The sketching reconnected him with a creative part of himself. As this positive pattern strengthened, the pull of alcohol naturally weakened. The practice of self-compassion. The Japanese also understand something crucial about shame and self-criticism. In the West, we often try to motivate ourselves through harsh self-talk. We call ourselves weak when we slip up. We use shame as a whip to drive ourselves forward, but shame does not create lasting change. It creates a cycle of rebellion and self-sabotage. When you shame yourself for a habit, you create an inner split. Part of you becomes the harsh critic and part becomes the rebellious child. These parts war against each other, wasting enormous energy that could be used for actual change. The Japanese approach emphasizes self-compassion. When you slip up, you treat yourself like you would treat a good friend who was struggling, with kindness, understanding, and gentle encouragement to try again. This is not about making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It is about recognizing that lasting change comes from self-acceptance, not self-hatred. You cannot hate yourself into becoming someone you love. You can only grow from a foundation of basic self-respect and compassion. A teacher who struggled with emotional eating discovered this principle after years of failed diets. Every time she ate something bad, she would punish herself with harsh words. This only made her feel worse, which triggered more emotional eating. It was an endless cycle. She learned to practice a new kind of self-acceptance. When she overate, instead of launching into criticism, she would simply note what happened without judgment. I ate more than my body needed. That is a fact, not a moral failing. Then she would get curious. What was she feeling before she ate? What need was she trying to meet? This gentle inquiry, free from shame, allowed her to start recognizing patterns. She overate when she felt unappreciated at work, when she felt lonely on weekends, when she was anxious about money. With this awareness, she could start addressing the real issues instead of just fighting the symptom. Building new paths. The Japanese system also recognizes that breaking a habit is not actually about breaking anything. It is about building something new. You do not destroy an old pattern so much as you grow beyond it. Like a tree that grows around a fence until the fence becomes irrelevant, you develop new patterns that make the old ones unnecessary. This is why the Japanese focus on creating positive routines rather than just eliminating negative ones. They understand that nature hates a vacuum. If you simply remove a habit without replacing it with something meaningful, you create an unstable situation. The old pattern will likely return because it serves some function, even if that function is just filling time or providing familiar comfort. Think of habits like well-worn paths through a forest. You have walked the same route so many times that the path is clear and easy to follow. Even if the path leads somewhere you no longer want to go, your feet naturally follow it because it is the path of least resistance. You cannot simply erase the path, but you can create a new one. At first, the new path is difficult. You have to push through branches, step carefully over unfamiliar ground. It requires conscious effort and attention. But each time you walk the new path, it becomes a little easier. The grass gets trampled down, the route becomes clearer. Meanwhile, the old path, unused, begins to grow over. Eventually, the new path becomes the natural, easy choice. This is exactly how brain pathways work. The more you use certain connections, the stronger they become. The less you use others, the weaker they grow. Change is not about willpower. It is about repetition. It is about patiently walking the new path again and again until it becomes automatic. A man struggling with social media addiction applied this principle in a really smart way. Instead of deleting all his apps and relying on willpower, he created a new morning routine. He placed a book next to his bed where his phone usually sat. In the morning, instead of immediately reaching for his phone, he would read one page. This seemed almost too simple to work, but that was exactly why it did work. Reading one page was so easy that he never felt resistance to it, and once he read one page, he often felt like reading more. Within a month, he was reading for 30 minutes each morning. The phone scrolling had not been eliminated through force. It had been replaced by something more satisfying. The path forward. The Japanese understand that lasting change happens in harmony with your nature, not in opposition to it. You are not conquering yourself. You are not defeating your weaknesses. You are growing into a fuller version of who you already are. The habit you want to break is not your enemy. It is a teacher showing you where you are out of alignment with your true self.